and really
Sorry,
excited to share. That's okay.
Sorry, I just turned on the recording. So start again, please. Sorry.
Sure, no problem. I'm Caitlin Friedman. I'm the marketing director for small business growth with GS1 US. Been with the organization for about 10 years and excited to share some of the basics with you guys. As Daniel said, it can often be complex and the whole world of standards is more than just the barcode. But feel free to ask your questions in the chat. I'll do my best to get to them. We do have some other team members on this call who can kind of monitor them, and maybe we can follow up through Slack if we don't get to it today.
Perfect. All right. So
Um,
you just tell me when to switch the slides, but I assume that now is a good time to go to the next one.
Yep, yeah. I have a couple things to get out of the way. So because we're a not-for-profit organization, we're required to show these two slides to let you know that we fully comply with all antitrust laws. We have a policy available online for people who might be curious about that kind of thing. If you go to the next slide, this is just to it's a disclosure to let you know that this information is intended to be purely educational and you're free to make your own business decisions. So let's get into it. Let's go to that next slide.
All right.
All right. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to take you behind the barcode and help you become more familiar with the system of identification that's symbolized by these black lines and spaces. So we see the barcode on products that we use every day, and we all know that familiar beep when we hear it at checkout in the store. And if you don't hear it, you kind of freak out a little bit, like, what am I going to do? Today we're covering, why GS1 standards are needed. Why should we really care about them, especially when it can be kind of a daunting task? What is a GTIN and what is a UPC? They are two different things. When do we need a new GTIN? I understand that's kind of a popular question that you guys get a lot. Understanding when you should license a prefix from us, and what the heck is a prefix anyway? Maintaining product data in general, why that's important. Things like product hierarchies, and we have some exciting changes coming for the barcode, so I'll let you in on some big projects we have in the works. Next slide. So let me tell you a bit about GS1 US in general, who we are. I represent GS1 US, which is one of 116 GS1 organizations around the world. We are a not-for-profit organization and we're neutral. So that means, you name it. Sometimes even competitors come to the table at a GS1 event and kind of try and decide this common path forward. And it's all in the name of serving the consumer and the patient better. So we're really inclusive, say, for our members, by our members. And so if you go to the next slide, there's a QR code here. I just wanted to put this out there. Members include really anybody who wants to participate in the supply chain, which can mean large multinational brands, medium brands, and then small businesses like yourselves. So we like to collect stories about small business success because no two are really alike. There's so many great startup stories and so many successes. You can check out some of those stories by going to our YouTube page, and who knows, if you're interested in telling your story, you can contact us and let us know what you're all about.
And that's like, I've never even.
If you go to the next slide, yes, GS1 standards. Oh, is it advancing? There you go. Okay, don't get stressed out by this slide. I know anybody who's traveled internationally, this might bring back some memories. But I often get asked, what does a standard mean? There's a lot of different ways to describe and label and identify a product. And you might have created your own internal SKU systems. You might have assigned an ASIN if you're an Amazon seller, that's their identification number. So unlike your own proprietary system or a retailer's proprietary system, GS1 standards create a global commerce language, so one that's readable across global systems. So the reason why we put up this electric outlet graphic, it represents what happens when there's for the user when there's different systems not designed to work together, not designed to be interoperable. So imagine that each outlet represents the language and the requirements of different retailers. And now imagine being a brand that supplies to these different retailers. You need to be responsive to point of sale requirements, sending invoices, managing inventory, all in these different systems and all in these different languages. So that would be hard enough for a big business doing that, but imagine how burdensome that is for a small business. So by creating one language, GS1 standards have allowed all different kinds of brands to leverage one knowledge base to sell to potentially thousands of retail partners. And so on the next slide, one of our most well-known standards is the GTIN. And so that's one of our fun acronyms. You're going to hear a lot of acronyms throughout this presentation. But let's clear this up. So is the GTIN the same as a UPC? And many retailers that we work with, they'll actually refer to them interchangeably, but they're not quite the same. And here's why. So a GTIN, a global trade item number, is a number that uniquely identifies trade items, right? Sounds simple. The GTINs are what's encoded into UPC barcodes. The UPC, or the Universal Product Code, is the actual barcode. It's the lines and spaces, it's the symbol that you scan. So the GTIN is also encoded into other types of data carriers, like the QR code, some data matrix codes. It can also be used alone in a product listing when selling through an online marketplace. So it's kind of important to know the difference in case you ever use that GTIN without the UPC. Okay, and if you go to the next slide, Daniel. Let's think about it from the retailer's perspective. So like we said, their systems are designed to use GS1 standards for product identification to keep their inventories organized. And so they often refer to a database that we maintain, the GS1 registry. And so the idea here is, and we actually have a website, it used to be called GPIR, another one of our acronyms. In 2024, it's going to be called Verified by GS1. We can share that link in the chat after this. Anyone who can you can take a GTIN and search for the company that it's licensed to. And this is what retailers do. If you are a teddy bear company, for example, and your GTIN is found to be licensed to a lamp company or a housewares company, you run the risk of being delisted or rejected from marketplaces or retailers because there's a matching error there. You know, pretty simple, but so there are third-party websites out there that sell UPCs outside of the GS1 system of standards. Small brands need to be cautious of these because they may end up being GTINs that are reused, they're already registered to another company, and this is against many retailer policies. So just watch out for that. Let's go to the next slide. A common question we hear from businesses is, why do I need a barcode? Especially if you're selling online. You might have the misconception that if your product isn't passing through a checkout line or a POS scanner, it's not something you need to worry about. We also get questions about why does it matter if it comes to GS1 or if you come to GS1 or not. We make sure your GTIN is linked directly to your product. So it's that unique identifier. We say it's like a fingerprint. No one else in the world should have the same one. And so let me walk you through this chart. It shows different benefits for different channels. If you sell in brick and mortar stores, all the way to the left, that blue column, you need the product to go beep at the point of sale. That's basic. If it can't be read, your relationship with that retailer, it could be in jeopardy. You need your product to be accepted in retailer fulfillment systems because many retailers want that source to store visibility about where products are, and GS1 barcodes help them with shipping and receiving. So you can also track your sales data with one interoperable number if you have that barcode. So it has a lot of benefits in a brick and mortar setting. Let's move all the way over to that pink column if you're selling online, if you're an e-commerce seller. Having a barcode means that your product listing will be properly indexed for search algorithms. And so that just means it'll show up when a consumer searches for your product category and leads to more business, more visibility for you. So GTIN's a part of that. Having a valid barcode, it means authenticity too. It helps protect your brand against counterfeiters or bad actors. They may claim that your product listing is theirs. This is something called hijacking. It's a big issue in the Amazon community. And we often hear from those sellers that they go to the retailer and they use their GS1 certificate to prove that they are the rightful owner of this product. So it gives you a leg to stand on in those scenarios. It also supports an overall healthy product listing on Amazon and other marketplaces too. So sellers should always be concerned with that A+ content and that accuracy. So selling online, you know, we can't have the interaction with the product before we buy it. So the listing really is everything. You need to match that consumer need. You need to make sure the right product gets to the right customer in the right place at the right time. GS1 barcodes help you with all of that. So now if you go to the middle in that green column, if you sell both in stores and online, we call this the omni-channel experience. Both types of sellers have a sense of credibility among retailers, right? So this means that if you have a barcode on your product, marketplaces, retailers, the consumer say, okay, this is a brand that I want to buy from. This is a brand that I want to do business with. And so many small business owners that I talk to say that it makes them feel like they've made it, that their dream is a reality. When I saw that barcode on my product, it really, it meant something to them that they're open for business. So also, if you're an omnichannel business, you can track your products easier with one common identifier. So that might be becoming clearer and clearer as we go on. Especially brands that have to abide by FDA regulations and might be subject to a recall. Food industry and healthcare industry, it's really big to just make sure that you have that assurance that you'll be able to isolate products by their UPC. If you ever have to conduct a recall, it makes things a lot easier. And so also barcodes, yeah, that's okay.
Sorry,
One last point.
my dog just hit the keyboard. I don't know what happened. Let me get back to where
Sophie
we
wants
were.
to get
Sorry.
in there.
Oh my gosh. I was going backwards. All right, sorry. Let me get back to where we were.
Right.
All right, everyone just got the sneak peek of all the good stuff that's coming up. All right.
Getting a little preview.
Okay,
No
here we go.
problem.
Sorry about that. Sophie's fault.
No problem. No problem. I think we need to go just a couple slides or one slide back. Just one more point on that. Just it basically supports good inventory management processes. So you're now a part of one massive global supply chain network, and the GTIN is like this basic building block for so much that happens in the supply chain. Okay, now we're ready to move on.
There we go.
Thanks. So the folks at Startup CPG told me that they get a lot of questions about what triggers a GTIN change and how do you know when you need to assign a new GTIN to your products. So you can read our full guidance called the GTIN Management Standard on our website. It's quite long, so we've taken the liberty of boiling it down to 3 guiding principles. So you have to think about, is there a consumer impact? Is there a regulatory consideration? And is there a supply chain impact? So the consumer principle asks you to consider if the shopper perceives it to be different from its previous state in any way. The regulatory principle means you have to stay up on what kinds of directions are coming out of the FDA, for example, and really just disclose your ingredients properly. And the supply chain impact means that there should be a new GTIN when the size, the weight, or anything about the way the product is shipped or stored changes. So if you go to the next slide, we've got a fun quiz, everybody. I hope you're ready to test your knowledge. And so I'll kind of go through a couple scenarios and just put in the chat, yes or no, does this need a new GTIN change? So if you look at this picture of strawberry jam and just notice the difference between the two, what do you think? Do we need a new GTIN here? Just, kind of pause for a minute and let everybody ponder that.
I don't know if we have, the total chat open.
Oh, okay.
But you guys can send us your,
Play along.
Play along at home. Yeah. I can play. I can play because honestly, I don't know the. Okay, well, I think I remember seeing on your website, like if there's a change that's over 10%, then you are supposed to change it. So maybe the answer would be if the sugar change is greater than 10%, then you theoretically would need one.
Oh, well, we have something like that, yes. But in this particular scenario, you would need to change it. You need a new GTIN for any change in formulation, right? So if you're taking out sugar, if you reduce sugar, this would be kind of in line with that regulatory guiding principle, where you have to keep in line with anything that that is an ingredient change. Yeah.
Like any change at all? What if you just tweak the formula a teeny bit, but it's not going to is it if it impacts the ingredient panel, or what's the threshold?
I'll have to check on that for you. Yeah. To what degree, how much, right? So I think let us take that question back for you.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to the next question, or the next quiz question. So take a look at this one. Let me know what you think.
Sorry. Okay, next question.
It should be.
There it is.
Yep. 300 grams, 450 grams.
Well, based off, I feel confident I'm going to get this one right, because based off what you showed us before, then yes, you need a new GTIN because it's more than a 10% change on the product, and it also is impacting the shipping.
Yeah, exactly right. So you've changed the net content from 300 to 450 grams, and we have to think about what's inside the jar, right? So this is an impact to your supply chain. You would need a new GTIN. But if there's a change in size or weight that's less than 20%, and so that's why I'm wondering if it's the same with the ingredient, if there's a certain threshold. I'm going to look that up for you. If it's less than 20%, there's no need to change the GTIN. But since this one is kind of, this is a much bigger jar, this would need a new GTIN.
And so what happens if, let's say, like, you and I disagree on how much of my change whether it would actually require a change in the UPC or not. I'm the brand. Let's say I decide, like, I'm going to roll the dice. I'm just not going to do it. What could actually happen if if one of the ingredients swap places or something, because I reformulate just a teeny bit, but I don't change the GTIN? Like, what could the impact of that be?
Yeah. I think it depends on the retailer you work with. If they are super vigilant about that kind of thing, it's all about kind of just making sure that the consumer is getting what they asked for. You want to be as truthful as you can, and we do have a decision support tool. I think in one of the future slides coming up, there's a QR code to help you kind of evaluate, like, when do I really need to do it? We do put it in your hands. It's really up to the brand owner to kind of make those decisions about what's best for, serving the customer, serving your retailer. Do you think that it'll kind of impact your relationship? And you probably do want to follow those guidelines pretty closely.
Okay, that's very good to know. So a lot of it is about
what is the helps.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it is about the retailer relationship for sure. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Got a couple more of these.
Okay.
All right, we've got 3 of these.
So this is if you're,
and they're all different. They're different flavors.
So yes.
Yeah. Yep. So maybe you started with the blueberry and now you're branching out to strawberry and peach. So you need new GTINs for that. Any style, flavor, variation, size, color needs a new GTIN. That is that's kind of a basic one, not even really considering those guiding principles, right? Okay, and I have one last one. If you go to the next slide. On the next slide there. You have a little bit of a lag there. I'm not seeing that next slide. Oh, there we go. All right, so this is my jam. It's KF Jam. This has a slight change in font, so let me know what you think.
I think no.
Right. No, so just a slight change in font. Any kind of slight change in packaging, like artwork, generally doesn't need a new GTIN. You're abiding by the guiding principles. Otherwise, you're good to go. Even if I added like a sweet strawberry jam, like some kind of adjective, it doesn't. If I haven't changed the recipe or the formula, it doesn't need a new GTIN. So if I did change the formulation though, along with the new font, and I want to say this is gluten-free or something like that, then that would mean a new GTIN. And so this links out to our global website where they have a really nice decision tool. It just kind of asks you a series of questions if you're curious about if you need to change your GTIN. Okay, so this graphic is also on our website, and it's a really helpful illustration to understand how to estimate what you'll need as you grow. So we kind of got a sense for, like, if you already have GTINs and you're changing. But so if you need to come to us, maybe you started out with a couple of barcodes from us. You can get single GTINs for $30 and no renewal fee. A lot of people start out with that, saying, this is my strongest product. I've got the strawberry jam. I'm going to get it on Amazon and see how it does. And then if it really takes off, I can expand with all my other product lines. So we have a barcode estimator tool that can walk you through this planning stage. And so you guys, I know, are in CPG. You can often have like a high volume of SKUs, and it's kind of just like the apparel industry. So bear with me through this example. You sell one t-shirt. That one t-shirt comes in 3 sizes, small, medium, and large, and 3 colors, blue, pink, and purple. So that's 9 products, right? Product variations. But then what if it's in 3 styles? And now that's 27 barcodes. And then what if it comes in 3 packages? And now you're talking about 81 barcodes. So I think that can kind of quickly escalate depending on package sizes and different formulations, different flavors, we have some flexible pricing options to kind of fit this need too. So I mentioned we just launched in 2020, not too long ago, during the pandemic, this single GTIN for $30. And so small businesses have really responded quite positively to that flexible option. Previously, the first way that you would become a member would cost $250. And so, for micro businesses just starting out and testing the waters, that was a lot of money. But so if you go to the next slide too, I can let you know about the GS1 company prefix option. So you might start out with a couple barcodes and then find, okay, I really need more like 10 or 100, or even, it could be like 1,000. So we have different kinds of, we call it capacity-based pricing for that. If you have 10 products, it'll be $250 to start with, then an annual renewal fee comes in. But what you get with the GS1 company prefix is actually more than about barcodes. So it has a host of other benefits, such as you can meet shipping and logistic partner requirements. They might actually ask you for your GS1 company prefix certificate to get started with them. With the company prefix, so this is like the first couple numbers within your GTIN. It identifies you as the company owner, right? So this is our friend Felicia Vieira with Crafted Brands. It's a cocktail mixer company. So if this were hers, and Crafted Brands can take that prefix and assign different GTINs with more identifiers after that, last 4-1 digit, that identifies the product. So to be able to assign these is one thing, but then also from the company prefix with that same sequence of numbers, I can create serialized shipping container codes, which are really important to shipping pallets. I can create global location numbers, which if I grow to the point where I need to identify one warehouse versus another, or one store versus another, the global location number is a really good way to make sure that you can track and trace products within your supply chain. So this is just kind of a call out to the idea to think about as you grow. Your retailer might ask you for this to create all these different numbers beyond just the GTIN or the barcode. Okay, let's move on. There's something I wanted to explain a little bit more, because I've been using the term assigning GTINs and creating barcodes. So we give you as the member the power to control this, right? So if you were to license a company prefix for a 10 capacity prefix, you get that prefix, you'd go into our tool called GS1 US Data Hub. And Data Hub is a free benefit that brands receive when they're licensing a prefix or a single GTIN, right? So even if you're getting that ready-made GTIN, you can go in and make sure that that number is assigned to a specific product. So in Data Hub, you really have the power to create it. You might also, sorry, I lost my place. We encourage brands to use this tool to just manage product data in general there. So not only are you assigning GTINs, and then you're also kind of pulling down your barcode image to maybe send to your package designer, send to your barcode labeler. But you're also putting in maybe weights and dimensions, basic product information like an image URL. You're going through the steps to make sure that you're saying, okay, I'm assigning this GTIN. We have, as the image shows, a draft version. You're now in pre-market. Maybe I want to kind of add some more product data while I'm in that pre-market. Then I'm setting it to in use. That means I'm ready to pull down that final barcode and put it on my product and get ready to work with my retailers. If you're not using a product, if you discontinued a line, you can also archive it there. So there's some useful information behind that QR code. We have a great user guide that kind of explains all this with screenshots. It includes more detailed information on package hierarchies too. And I'm going to walk you through some basics of that next, but there's a lot more to know there. And I think, our support team does a really good job with explaining that in our user guides.
So
let's go to the next slide.
A couple questions coming in, mainly about prefixes. So one, do I like if I've already set up a GTIN or UPC and I didn't get a prefix, is it possible to try to like do that later to like, get it into a prefix? I think the answer would be no. Like if you just had bought kind of one-offs, is that right?
Right, yeah, so if you got a single GTIN or if you got a UPC from somewhere else, you would have to kind of start fresh with a new prefix. The single GTIN kind of generator is separate and apart from, prefixes. You can't kind of bring them into your existing prefix.
So if you're just starting a company and you're not sure how many SKUs you're going to have or whatever, you like basically you would need to get you would need to buy the prefix at the beginning if you want your eventual SKUs to be housed under the same prefix.
You would, yeah. So, I was saying the single GTIN is a flexible option. You can go right to the prefix if you think like, well, I just want to be ready for growth. You get the pack of 10 or 100. You don't have to use them all at once. So our Data Hub tool kind of helps you measure, okay, I've used 4 out of 10. This is what I have left in my capacity. So as long as you kind of maintain the membership, it'll always be there as your product line grows. But yeah, there's no way to bring a single GTIN under a new prefix.
And what's the downside to just having a bunch of random GTINs instead of having the prefix? Because I've worked at a company where those of us who worked, internally, we were like, why are all these things different? And they're like, oh, they didn't buy enough under the initial prefix. But so it was a little like annoying for us. But is there any other real impact of that would impact your retailers or supply chain or anything like that?
No, other than it could be a lot to manage, right? So, we do see people come in and buy, 20 single GTINs, and that's just the way they want to manage it. That's their business decision. Kind of like what I was saying with the company prefix slide, it's not just about the GTIN and the barcode though, right? So it does have this benefit beyond that in the supply chain where you're going to be asked to create other identification numbers as your supply chain grows. But yeah, so even if you start out with like 210 packs, 210 capacity prefixes, and then you discover you really need to grow, you still have those 10 capacity prefixes that you need to manage, or it's up to you. It's really up to you to have that flexibility to maybe you archive all the ones in that prefix and start with another one. So yeah, it's a business decision. That's why I think the estimator tool is really key to help you think, way down the road.
Okay, so yeah, not pro. So like we're getting a lot of questions on this,
Yeah.
but
No, go ahead.
probably yeah. So probably shouldn't be a big deal. Should not impact a retailer if you have a couple random GTINs that do not have a prefix. Retailers may not even know what a prefix is. They just want to make sure that the GTIN works. But as for you as a team, probably it's nice to have some stuff that's a little bit more organized. But don't worry about it if they don't all match.
Yeah, the retailer just it cares that it comes from GS1. It cares that it is registered to you when they look it up. So whether that's a single or a prefix, that's your decision. But they really just need to know that it's registered just to your company, regardless.
Okay, cool.
I
Should we
love
move
all the
on?
questions. Yeah, thank you for the questions. Yep, next slide. Okay, so a little bit of packaging hierarchy 101 here. So this is a brief summary of the packaging level options that are in Data Hub that I was talking about. So we use the term hierarchy, so you should enter the each unit first and then your inner pack and so on. And the each units are also referred to as children or descendants. Isn't that very cute? And the higher levels are parents and ancestors. So you might kind of come across, guidelines or things like that that refer to those terms. So an each is just what it sounds like. It's a singular thing that's purchased or at checkout or sold online. And so our each here is that single jar of jam. An inner pack is a pack of multiples of that same trade item number, that same trade item representing the single GTIN. So you have to specify if they're purchasable like this or not in Data Hub. That's something that comes up. It's like a prompt. And our inner pack shows 4 jars of jam for shipping and receiving only. Let's move on to the next slide. Talk about cases and pallets. A case is a standard shipping unit that contains eaches. They're packaged either individually or grouped as an inner pack. All of the items in a case must have the same GTIN. And so this picture shows a case of 8 jars of strawberry jam. So you can have a mixed case. That's the little asterisk here and there. A mixed case contains more than one type of each. It's just kind of just what it sounds like. A lot of it's common sense. It must contain more than one GTIN. It can contain eaches and inner packs. So for this example, a mixed case would hold 4 jars of jam and 4 jars of blueberry jam. 4 jars of strawberry, 4 jars of blueberry. So that's a mixed case. A pallet is a shipping unit that contains other either cases, inner packs, or eaches. So it's kind of everything all in one. It must contain one GTIN regardless of the number of items in the grouping. So I hope everybody's with me here. There's more levels.
And then if you have a case that you define as, what's in it, and then you change the configuration of what's in the case, that's going to require a new GTIN for that case.
Yes, yep, exactly. So you want to just make sure that it's pretty clear what your retailer or your partner would be receiving. Yep.
So when let's say, okay, I'm putting together my case with 3 strawberry and 3 blueberry. Later on, I have a new flavor and I want to do 2 of each. That has to be a new GTIN put on the case, just so everybody knows, right?
Right. Yes. And so it gets a little complicated, right? So we're getting into things where we're going beyond the GTIN 12. We're talking about the GTIN 14. So there's different identifiers for different levels of packaging too. So we do have, and here's my plug for our wonderful education and training. We have a packaging level module in the GS1 US University learning management system. So it's kind of like taking a course. There are different scenarios, and it can be kind of complex. You might run into some of those. You might prefer to kind of keep it all together. Depends on what you're selling, and it depends on when and what the retail requirements are. We also have a user guide in our Data Hub Help Center about, we call it the product packaging hierarchies. That's what it's called in there. So all of these, I have some links. I can throw them in the chat after we're done and just make sure you guys have access to that.
Okay, next slide.
Yeah, let's go for it. Coming down the home stretch. So I did want to touch on the types of barcodes. So we kind of talked about different types of identifiers. That top line, we're talking about the UPC. UPC is heard over 10 billion times a day, that beep around the globe, which is apparently more than Google searches happen a day. I thought that was a pretty crazy stat. But there's more than one type of barcode used in the supply chain, and even more than one type of barcode that carries the GTIN. So in Europe, we see the EAN, which is very common, the European article number. You might also see the GS1 data bar. That's usually used to mark pieces of fruit or produce. So then we have the logistics barcodes in the center. That includes the GS1 128 and the ITF 14. These are kind of more sophisticated levels of barcodes being used in the supply chain. They are one-dimensional. They enable items to be tracked through the supply chain. The 128 in particular can carry any of the GS1 identification numbers. So your GTIN or your global location number, plus information like serial numbers and expiration dates and batch and lot, which also becomes pretty important in the fresh food industry. The ITF 14 barcode, you've probably seen that printed on corrugate boxes, and that can really only hold the GTIN. And again, it's more for logistics and shipping purposes. But what we're really excited about, what I really wanted to make sure we put on the radar for this audience in particular, is the 2D barcode. So the two-dimensional barcode, the most recognizable is the QR code. I think we're all pretty familiar with that, especially after the pandemic. You saw it on your TV screen, on your menus. It was, pretty well known, I think, in the years prior to the pandemic too, but it really has kind of reached this critical mass for people to be able to scan with their phones. Our phones actually have a sophisticated scanning capability that we didn't have a few years ago too, where we can scan with our camera and not with an app. So the 2D barcode is really on track to create this product data revolution, both for B2B and B2C transactions. And so here's my cliffhanger while we go to the next slide.
Yeah, just I don't want to ruin your cliffhanger, but a couple questions
about? Yeah.
Yes. One is, so when I'm creating a barcode in GS1 for my product, I know I always, on the drop down, I select like, what is it for? I select, CPG is one of the options. So I select that. And then there's an option that's like, do you want to use this for just for the unit or also for shipping and receiving? So usually I don't have a problem, because if it's like an individual can or something, then I don't need it to be counted for shipping and receiving. But if it's the case, then I do. But it's it's still going to give me the EAN UPC type format for it. And I don't check. There are options in there for like omnidirectional stuff that I never did any of that stuff. So like you're pretty much good if you just do the CPG one and then check shipping and receiving if you need to be able to ship it, like a case or something. But that's pretty much straightforward, right?
that sounds right to me. There's certainly exceptions, and that's why they're in there. I think Data Hub is meant to be a comprehensive tool just for any scenario. But yeah, that sounds like the right procedure. I see we have a question too about let me just address this question before we move on to, can we reassign the GTIN if an old one is eliminated? So it's no longer in the market. And we actually, as of 2018, have a GTIN no reuse policy now. So because products have a longer lifespan because of e-commerce, it was a global effort to kind of reevaluate how GTINs are reused and when they can be. And it's a little bit more rare now. I think there's only very, very specific instances where you can reuse something. So we do just really want to have that unique identifier attached to all products at all times, even if it's beyond the point when it's going to be a market, because it might still be out there, right? So it might, and with different aftermarket opportunities. And so that's unfortunately the answer to that. So I did want to just put on your radar this movement called Sunrise 2027, and it's the idea that this UPC that we've known and loved and used for, probably our whole lives, certainly mine. I don't remember a time when there wasn't a UPC. It's a 50-year-old technology, and it's kind of outlived what we really need. Consumers really want to know more about the product. They want to know product origins. They want traceability. We need the supply chain just to move faster, and to do that, we need a code that holds more data. So by 2027, we are moving the industry along to phase out the UPC barcode in favor of a data-rich 2D barcode, like your QR code. So we see a lot of QR codes already on package alongside the UPC. I wish I had my Coke can, because that's usually my prop. But if you think about like a can of soda, there's a allergy list that can be scanned through a QR code. Maybe there's something you scan for points for their loyalty program, and then you have the UPC. The idea is, why can't we merge all of that into one code and just enable the QR code to be scanned by a barcode, and then also still scanned by the consumer smartphone? So we're working with retailers to upgrade their infrastructure to be able to read those barcodes. There's already some retailers and some brands testing this out. We like to talk about the Puma flagship store in New York City. Does not use UPCs at all. They're selling their own products through their own store, so they can control that environment a little bit. And what they're seeing is they're able to, we have had someone from Puma sit on a lot of our recent speaking engagements and at our own conference talking about this. They actually get data back about, where are consumers scanning that in the store. They get a little bit of data, to just give them some insights about what the customer wants too. But it's a huge opportunity to engage the consumer on another level, whether it's in a store, whether it's post-purchase, if you're an online, if you're an e-commerce seller only. I want to give you an example too, because I think that there's a huge opportunity for CPG in particular to just free up that real estate on your package and allow for more brand expression. And there's certainly so many up and coming CPGs that have wonderful stories to tell, great, founder stories. So many people are more interested in the transparency of the supply chain. Was this made sustainably? What was everybody receiving fair wages in the process? Can I thank my coffee farmer? There's just a nice connection that's enabled when you have these codes on package. And we had a small business owner. Her name is Temeka Cyril. She's the founder of this company called Focus. And it's a sustainable product. She has gorgeous wrapping paper, and it's made from stone instead of wood, which still seems like magic to me. And it draws on her African culture. She's able to differentiate herself with these really unique prints. But if you think about a wrapping paper tube, that's always historically been very little real estate for any kind of brand expression. It's really just about the product. And then you've got that wrapper for the UPC. And so she talked about how in particular, she's got so many facets to the story. I've got sustainability, I've got my culture. I really want to just kind of tell everything. And to have this one code on package just is a great place to put all that in one place. So I think what we're trying to just get on everybody's radar in these years preceding 2027, because there's nothing really to do now. You're not going to go into Data Hub and pull down your QR code that's enabled for this yet, because there's not really a lot of scanners that are able to read it yet. We think by 2027 that'll happen. But what we want everybody to know is start to think about the data that you should start collecting to be able to tell that story when it reaches that critical mass. So it might take a little while. It might be something that you can do right away, but we really think it's a huge opportunity to just improve the experience. And I do have on the next slide, we just produced a video with PepsiCo. This is on our YouTube channel too. Take a look at it when you get a chance. I know that you guys are smaller CPG brands. This is a huge multinational company. Might be a little hard to relate, but the use case is really interesting. He talks about how a new allergen was added to the US allergen list, and that's sesame. So if you think about Pepsi brands, it's more than just drinks, right? There's no sesame in Pepsi, but they have different kind of food brands. And so they had to think about the lag time between when that's identified as something potentially unsafe, something that people can be allergic to, and when it's available for the public to know about it on the product packaging, it can be anywhere from 18 to 24 months for that packaging to be updated to say this contains sesame. And so with a QR code like this that's enabled to have one code on package, you can kind of change that with dynamic information to say, okay, when the consumer buys that at the point of sale, it'll say, this has a new allergen, or this has been recalled, or this is unsafe. So all those things can happen almost quicker than the packaging can keep up with, and quicker than a retailer might be able to pull that item from the shelf. So kind of cool stuff. It's about a little bit more than consumer engagement too. All right, on the next slide. This is just to wrap up. I leave you with this quote from one of my favorite small CPGs. Sonia Hernandez is the founder of Recover, Restore, Grow, and she's the star of one of our videos. She says, if you think small, you're going to stay small. And if you think bigger, you're going to be ready to grow. And it sounds really simple, but it just really encompasses a lot of what we've been talking about of planning for that future growth. Don't have that tunnel vision. Just make sure that you have a plan for how you're building your supply chain, and just make sure it's ready to support your growth. And GS1 has a lot of helpful resources. I hope you know that we're here to support you in that journey. So, thank you so much. Happy to take any more questions. And my contact information is on the next slide too. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to build my small business community, and I do participate on the Slack channel. So if you want to kind of find me there too, happy to continue the engagement.
That's so good. Thank you. This was incredibly interesting for me. And just some of the small stuff, honestly, like I mentioned, is so high anxiety when you don't know if you should check a box or not, and you haven't done it before. And so thank you so much for bringing all this information and helping relay it to us even more. So just noting that there are resources on the GS1 website, the university, if you want to dig in further. But I mean, awesome that you're on our Slack channel as well. So thank you again, and thank you guys for all the questions. I think we got all of them. It looks like one last one came in, so we can end on this one. So I think just similar about like, should brands printing product labels this year include all 3 codes, or which, I think for me as a brand, we were grabbing the, GTIN UPC from you guys and then adding our own QR code from another vendor. Sounds like we won't be able to download a QR code directly from you guys for a couple of years. So just kind of keep doing what we're doing and just focus on the UPC until that happens.
Yeah. There's going to be a period of coexisting, right? Kind of like how it is now. And really, the GTIN is going to stay the same. The way we identify products with that number, we're just putting the GTIN in a better vehicle, a better data carrier that can also be combined with a lot of other useful information. So we're doing a lot of pilot work. We're learning through the process of, how are people using it. I think there's going to be some really interesting findings in 2024 that we'll certainly keep everybody updated. I'm sure we'll do some videos and things like that on our YouTube channel to keep everybody just in the know, because we do get a lot of questions, and we find, especially from startup companies and small businesses, they're like, how can I do this now? You guys are able to move so much with more agility than a lot of the bigger brands, right? So I do see a lot of potential for small businesses to be first adopters.
All right, cool. Caitlin, thank you so much. We really appreciate you helping educate us on this very important topic.
Sure, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.